The other day, when we were here in this very spot, on the other side of the road there was a group of people who were watching us. Obviously they weren't in support. If they were supporting us, they would have joined us. But no, they were looking at us like wolves, starved wolves, looking at people having a picnic in the park. That is how they were looking at us. And one of them, when I mentioned the Soviet Union and their alliance with Nazi Germany, he couldn't take it. He got triggered. His fifis, they were hurt. So he left the safety of his group, he took a step forward and he shouted, "Великий Советский Союз." I couldn't help but laugh. It was funny, truly. And I wanted to ask him a question. Why is this Soviet Union so great? What are their achievements? What are the things that they are so good at? And what is the price of the existence of that genocidal country? A price of blood. A price of countless generations killed, mutilated and traumatized. But obviously, he did not want to answer. When he said what he wanted to say, he immediately returned to the safety of the group. And shortly after, they left. Unfortunately, my friends, this is what our opposition behaves like. They do not know what to say. They do not know what arguments to give. They can't justify their opinions. But somehow, they feel really, really strongly about those opinions. And that's a red flag. There's nothing wrong with emotions. Every single human being has emotions. Emotions is what makes us what we are. However, my friends, we must not allow our emotions control our reasoning. If we feel about something very strongly, we need to be able to explain why. Or else we fall into propaganda. That is exactly what our opposition has fallen for. Our opposition on the far left claims the Ukrainians are Nazis. Prigozhin himself said that he was fighting the Ukrainians for years, and he still couldn't find these imaginary Nazis the Russian terrorist regime was talking about for so long. And Prigozhin was one of the most immersed individuals in this war. He was the only individual who was making gains for the Russian army on the field. The Wagner group did impressive achievements on the battlefield. We need to give them their due. But they were a group of criminals, of crooks, and war criminals also. They deserve no respect. But their achievements and their finesse on the battlefield needs to be recognized. And of course, the Russians continued to spread their lies. And Prigozhin got killed because he was telling the truth in this particular regard. Now let's take a look at Russia. If you call this war a war in Russia, you go to jail for up to 15 years. 15 years for calling a war a war. Now think about that, my friends. And consider the freedom of speech you have in this great country. Consider the luxurious lives we can live. The ability to move from place to place. The ability to choose for ourselves what our future will be. That is the ability that Russia wants to take away from every single one of you. And make no mistakes, Russia is already preparing for that. The plans of a future invasion of the Baltic countries has already been traced. We already have some of those leaked plans, my friends. But not only that, there's been a piece of legislation passed lately that every single piece of land held by the Soviet Union and by the Russian Empire in the past, Russia has a claim to it. Truly insane. But the Russian terrorist regime is that same insanity, that embodiment of insanity that we thought we had eliminated. We thought it was left in the past with the Soviet Union and with Nazi Germany. But no, that insanity is alive and well, and it wants to come back right now. The only thing that stop it is us. As the saying goes, the saving of the drowning is a job for the hands of the drowning. It's a Ukrainian saying, of course. And that is what we need to understand, my friends. We need to act. We need to take initiative back from these terrorist regimes of Russia, Iran, and North Korea. We need to take back initiative from terrorist organizations and these proxies, such as Hezbollah, Hamas, and the Houthis. These individuals that use every single possibility to attack the peaceful populations around them. The Russians have done that ever since the genesis of the Muscovite state. With Peter the Not So Great, when he changed the name of Muscovy to Russia, when he appropriated the name of the Kievan Rus, the origins of Ukraine, and partially also of Russia. Although very few regions of Russia were part of the Kievan Rus, its heartland was in Ukraine. And that is the meaning of the word Ukraine, Ukraina, within the countries, the heartland, the center. That is what the Russians cannot admit. That is what the Russians refuse and deny with their every breath. Because if they admit it, if they admit that they were wrong and they were lying, that every single part of their existence throughout millennia of their history has been a lie, it will be painful, but it needs to be done. After World War II, when Nazi Germany and Imperial Japan fell, they did not get exterminated because of their crimes, even though they were trying to exterminate others. Because the West is not a genocidal entity like Russia. They changed. They became better. They became more humane. And Russia will change one day. But before Russia changes, Russia needs to be beaten. Russia needs to be shown that their way, that their worldview is dysfunctional. This supposed multipolar world is nothing but an excuse for genocide. And that is exactly what the Russians are planning to do in the future and continue to do it for as long as they can. And that is the key word here. They do it because they can. But if they know that there's going to be consequences, they will do it no longer. That, my friend, is our message. The message we have for the world is this. World, wake up!
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 Russia is a terrorist state!
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 More sanctions on Russia!
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 Seize Russian assets!
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 Stop Putin! Stop the war!
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 Although Putin is the most important piece of this machine of genocide that we call Russia, he is not the only one. Putin is but the key point that turns, the key that turns the machine on and makes it move. Without Putin, the machine will stop, but only until the next key is found. Perhaps a spare key, perhaps somebody who's also an ex-KGB agent, somebody who shares the ideals of those obsolete times. We must not allow that. Russia needs to be reformed. Russia cannot continue with the same government they have right now. And it's also in the benefit of the Russian people themselves that their country will be changed. And that change will come from the whole world. not only from Ukraine, because the future of humanity is a union of the globe, where every single person will be able to work together, where there will be no terror states like Russia, Iran, or North Korea. And we will achieve that future, my friend. A better future, a global future, with trade and prosperity, with peace and negotiations. But only fools negotiate with those who are coming to kill them. It is impossible to try to negotiate with them. If somebody wants you dead, you can't give them what they truly want, can you? Or else you commit suicide. And suicide is not part of any reasonable negotiations, my friends. If it were Putin's will, then every single Ukrainian would simply die. And those lands would be occupied by Russians. But fortunately, Putin is not omnipotent, and his power is waning right now. This is why, my friends, we have to strike the iron while it's hot. And we need to be able to stop Russia now that it's weakened. We need to provide Ukraine with the weapons that Ukraine needs to finally bring this war to an end. We need to provide Ukraine with long-range missiles, with more tanks. We need to provide Ukraine with more weapons so that Ukraine can defend itself and so that Ukraine can take back what Russia has stolen and will steal in the future from many other countries if we allow them to act as they please. That, my friends, is our message. That is what we are going to achieve. Stop Russia, stop the war.
Stop Russia, stop the war.
Stop Russia, stop the war.
Stop Russia.